So we're going to go over our instructional leadership team meeting that we're having on July 24th. As you know, we like to start every meeting with some kind of quote that will pertain to the content that we're looking at. So last time we talked a lot about visioning, just to kind of set the big picture. Because we focused so much on last time with data analysis, and I know that was hard for some of the people in the room to hear, our instructional leaders, I wanted to make sure that it's focused on the action steps to achieve the goals that we're trying to achieve. So the quote that I have for us is, insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. And the reason I chose that quote is because I want to make sure that we're choosing intentional action steps and follow through so that we're not sitting in that same position next year being frustrated with the same results.
Well, it makes a lot of sense because we've talked as a team in the past about our results aren't going to improve until we change what we're doing, but we continue to do the same things.
Right.
So it makes a lot of sense. That will resonate with them, I think. So
Good. So as you know, it'll be yourself, superintendent of schools, myself, the principals, and all the academic coaches for the district. Our objective will be similar to last time, but instead of focusing on the data, we're going to come up with some shared commitments and action steps to actually fulfill, or not fulfill, but work towards fulfilling our vision of achieving excellence at Tom Bean ISD. So just to follow the traditional agenda we've set, the format, we'll go through good things and challenges. We'll discuss the objective and purpose. And then I have 3 questions that we'll discuss as a leadership group that they'll reflect on. And this will be sent out to them prior so that they can have time to digest and come up with some good examples. But I've highlighted the word commitment because I really want that to be what stands out. So they'll reflect on what a commitment means to them. How is it different than a mandate, requirement, or expectation? Because if we use the word commitment, I want them to carry that over into their campuses as well. Of a commitment is different than I'm going to tell you what to do and you're going to do it, because we need to have that buy-in. So I'm hoping that they'll come up with some of that feedback on, the buy-in part of it,
right,
the relational part.
That's what I was going to ask. What is your perspective of the difference between a commitment and a requirement?
Yeah, I think a commitment, when I think of a commitment, I think of things like marriage, for instance. You make a commitment that together you're going to do these things. Whereas a mandate is a directive. I'm telling you to do this and you better do it. So the other party doesn't have as much buy-in. Or requirement, you have to do this because it's what we're supposed to do. A commitment is, we're going to do this together because this is what's best for students.
Very good.
But I'm not going to tell them that.
Yeah.
I'm going to hope they're going to tell me that.
Hope they get there. If we have the
we
right
have to
people in
probe
the
a little.
room, they'll get there.
That's right. And I believe we do. So, second question, I want to hear from them what they believe impedes success in meeting goals and commitments, and then what supports success. That's good feedback for us as leaders to know what can we do to help continue to try to remove barriers so they can be leaders on their campuses. And then this is the reason, the third question is really why I want to give it to them ahead of time, because I'd love for them to come up with some really good examples, whether it's personal or professional, where they continue doing the same thing over and over, or they change something and experience success. So a negative or a positive example. And I think you put somebody on the spot, they may not be able to come up with those examples.
That's true. Can we change that to, rather than or, and?
Absolutely.
And the reason I say that is sometimes as teachers, we focus only on our successes and we don't reflect on our challenges and the areas we failed maybe.
Absolutely.
But there's some areas we're clearly failing in Tom Bean ISD because our results aren't where we want them to be. So I'd rather do it where they give one time where they're stuck in routine and not changing what they're doing, and yet we're still getting the same results. And then an example where they did change something and had success. So
absolutely
focus on.
I think that can definitely stretch some of them if they tend to sway on ignoring the growth needed.
Yes.
Or we even have some in the room that focus only on the growth needed and not the positive. So I like that. We can definitely change that. And then the question in orange, what can you personally commit to? And in order to ensure follow through on action steps for our shared commitments we come up with their staff, is really just a reflection question that they can take into after they leave the instructional leadership team. As you and I both know, it's really easy to come up with action steps. It's more difficult to follow through with them. And so I'm hoping that everything we go over, they're able to take and make that relevant to their campus as well. Then we get into the meat of it. Last time I asked the academic coaches and the principals to look at the data, and they were tasked with looking at student population breakdowns and the best 5 and worst 5 TEKs, and look for patterns. So I had a reflection document with all kinds of questions. They started that last time, but I gave them time to finish it. So they're going to share out just basically patterns they noticed. We'll take notes, and that will help drive the things we focus on in our improvement plans. So I'm excited to see what they come up with there. Vertical alignment, Miss McCarthy has shared a template with me that she's worked on for her master's program, which is really great. She took reporting category 2 from math, which is what Tom Bean traditionally has struggled with. And I mean, the template is phenomenal. It shows from grade level to grade level and scaffolded TEKs. It shows the different percentages of how our students performed. And so I just want to give her a chance to show the work that she's done, and not in a way to overwhelm the group, because they may not be ready to execute the things she's ready to execute with data analysis. But I want them to, number one, see the strength that she has and how she can continue to help us in that capacity, but also kind of see the end goal of like, this is what true vertical alignment would look like. So I really appreciated the work she did on that, and I think it's going to be really relevant. And it's a lot of work that helped me because it's very intentional on what we need to focus on. So as far as math, 3rd through 8th, and even algebra 1, it's going to give us some kind of direction into what we need to focus on in math.
Okay.
So, and then we'll also do a vertical alignment activity called the Big 3, where I'm going to show them what they do, but they're going to, hopefully, if they like it, I'm going to gather feedback. If they feel like it will be useful, we feel like it will be useful, they will take that back to their campuses, but whether that's during PD or PLC, they'll work with the principals to decide which time is most appropriate. But it'll be what 3 things does the 4th grade math teacher feel like 3rd graders need to come into their classroom already knowing.
Yeah.
And so it's a really simple spreadsheet, but I want to put it on paper and share it out so that they're going into the year knowing where the deficits may be.
Right.
So that will lead into SMART goals and improvement plans. And as you know, like, we have a full day. Rarely do we get through the things we need to get through, but hopefully that will help drive to where we can at least introduce the concept of a SMART goal. That will probably be something we might do a sample together, but they'll have to take away and work on. I haven't had a chance to look at the improvement plans to the depth of knowing, but I will prior to this meeting. Are the goals measurable? Do we have follow through? Does there need to be some coaching in that? Because if you have a goal that you can't measure, you never know how you're doing.
Right. And that's one of the things I think even if they are measurable, what I can tell you is we're not doing a good job of measuring them along the way. So this is an area we definitely need work, at least on the improvement plan side. Even if I'd be lying if I said I have looked at them to the depth I probably should, but we're writing those improvement plans and we're putting them on a shelf until the next year.
And we want things to be meaningful.
And
it can be
impactful.
really meaningful.
And it has to be impactful. And right now we're doing work that I don't think is really impacting our student learning in any way, shape, or form. And so that, and you and I have discussed that needs to be an area we improve, whether it's through a different template or but at some point we've got to be reflecting throughout the year on, are we achieving our goals, are we meeting them or not? And if we're not, then why not? And let's have a discussion about what we need to do to meet the goals. So.
And I think if we know our data and we choose the categories or topics in the improvement plan that give like a comprehensive view of a successful school, the instruction will be the main focus of this one, but also, the safety and the parent communication and all those things, then that will further align our improvement plans. But also we'll have peace and I guess I always think of like intimately knowing your school as leaders, like it forces you to intimately know your school. The rest of the topics on here are really just like housekeeping things from the prior meeting, things that we started, our feedback they gave me that they needed help with, that I just want to represent to them. So we'll talk about, I'll give them the PLC questions and make sure that, we have a plan for ensuring that those are the questions driving our PLCs. There's a data breakdown form. I'll show them. All of this is up for feedback. I want them to have buy-in, but I also know everybody's strapped for time, so I want to be a support to them. We'll talk about how we're going to verify that teachers are using IFD. That is a question that came up on the last one that they didn't really answer. We know when they log in, but how do we know they're using it? So I want to go back to that. Fundamental 5 presentation, I'll have that ready to show them and get feedback from them, and some of them may not know much about it, so they'll be able to ask me questions. We started a curriculum spreadsheet where we're trying to put usernames, passwords, point of contacts, all of that, and that will help me as well because I don't always know, all the things we have being new to the district. So Padlet versus Google site, I'm going to let them vote on. Right now, some of them are using a Google site to house their important documents. I'm used to using a Padlet. I want them to see both and vote, and we'll go from there. The extended constructed response acronym, I want to show them that in the short constructed response. We'll look at a couple of different samples again, let them vote and see what we can commit to together. Then I'll talk to them about the different posters for the recalibrated initiatives. I don't want to call them all new initiatives because they're not new, but we're kind of recalibrating this year. So fundamental 5, levels of questioning, constructed response, posters for that visibility for teachers. We've talked about those HEAT and the CCC and fundamental 5 feedback forms. So we'll also talk about walkthroughs. I call them flybys. I don't know what we'll call them here. It's not as relevant to, as it was prior to my other district. I think a Tomcat Prowl. That's what I've come up with, but we'll have to confirm. Maybe they'll have ideas. And just our T-test evaluation commitments. Show them a rough draft of the district testing calendar. Review any feedback on grading practices, or at least ensuring that they're putting that in the hands of their teachers and their teachers know it and are following it. And then professional development campus topics. That's just an alignment of do you know what you're going to talk about on campuses, because what high school's doing may be relevant to middle school. We want that to be individualized for campus needs, but I think it's also important that we all know what's happening.
Right.
And then IXL being the main intervention, which we'll talk more about that because I know there's prior things being used, being new to the district. I don't know how married to those things they are, or how they're going to perceive ripping that out and going straight IXL. So maybe you can give me some feedback on how to approach that. And then we'll talk about, I'm going to have a drive or hub of some sort just with those documents that they can refer to, just so they have digital copies basically. And then we'll give them their Strength Finder books and talk to them about, how they find that, give them a little deadline, which is the 10 to 15 minute quiz.
Right.
But I'm really excited about that. They were excited about that last time we mentioned it. So it'll be fun to see if I've used Strength Finder for several years. So I've already got some pinned in my mind that Coach Cherry, belief has to be his number one. If it's not, then I'm going to lose some money somewhere because I just think it has to be. It'll be another long day. It's a lot, but I feel like
on the books did kind of
no, you're
relevant
good.
question, but did you get the PO for those?
I did, and I called Sarah yesterday.
Awesome.
She's ordered and sent me the invoice.
Awesome. All
So
right,
we're good to
then.
go on those.
I wanted to make sure we were going to have them. So.
And then the building thinking classrooms, I sent an email to the principals just confirming who their math teachers are, and then we'll revisit. Like, if we want to buy the books and just go secondary, I mean, if we don't use them this year because we don't want to overwhelm some of them, or we pause on elementary or whatever we do, we would have them for next year. So you'll know the budget part more than I will on what we can and can't do.
Right.
But I'm gathering information on that. So.
Okay.
But that's pretty much it. Am I covering everything that you feel like we need to cover? Do you have any feedback or questions?
We're hitting the big things. There's, there's a lot we have to cover because we're not where we need to be. But I think this is, where we need to go next. Yeah. So I'm
it'll be a delicate balance of we've got growth and it's okay to feel the pressure of that and feel the timing of the need, the urgency of it, but not overwhelming too much. So I feel like right now we're okay on that balance, and we're focusing on the right things. But that's going to have to obviously be something like I believe the leadership team has the right lens. It's, are we going to be confident that will be able to translate over to the campus staff?
Right.
And that'll be the next big piece of it. But
Well, yeah, implementation's ultimately, but over time, that will indicate to us whether we have people in the right places.
Right.
So, because if we can lay all the groundwork, but if it's not implemented by our instructional leaders,
That's right.
then it's going to be fruitless.
Right.
But that will show us that instructional leader is not the best fit for that role. So either way, we'll gain
That's exactly
from
right.
it. So.
Okay, well, thank you for your time on this. If you see anything, let me know, and I'm looking forward to an awesome meeting.
All right, sounds great. Thanks,
Thanks.
Emily.
Everybody is getting geared up for the school year, so I'm going to try really hard to honor all of your time. We will break at 11:30, or when our brains can't take anymore. We'll see. So we'll just kind of read the room on that. If you need to get up and use the restroom during the meeting, please feel free to do that. There are donuts and pigs in a blanket right here. Please help yourself. There is also, Ms. Gomez, if you don't mind grabbing that sign-in sheet and passing that around, as well as an agenda. So I sent you the agenda ahead of time. Hopefully you had a chance to look over it. As usual, we will start with an instructional leadership lens. The quote we have today is, "Insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results." How many of you have heard that quote before? Yeah, it's an old one, but it's good to keep circulating through. It's a good reminder. Albert Einstein said that. Somebody tell me, what are your thoughts? What does that quote mean to you? Or what comes to your mind when you hear that quote?
A broken system, just going in a circle. I call it a Satan circle. Where there's never any answer and you just you don't see any avenues, there's no creativity, there's no solutions, it's just
So with it being a Satan circle,
that you're trapped in.
you're trapped, you're frustrated, right? Good, in a circle, it never ends.
Never
There's
ends.
never end it, right?
It's not a happy circle.
You
It's
keep
a
meeting the
forgetting
same
circle.
parts, exactly. What else?
It makes me think of about like wishing something would change, but not really doing anything about it.
Mhm.
I was thinking me too. Not willing to change.
Right.
Wanting to, but not willing
So, would anybody like to take a guess why I picked this quote for this meeting? Just kind of reflecting on our last meeting together.
Well, and we need them.
Yeah. Yeah, if you remember the last meeting, we did a lot of data analysis and kind of just seeing the reality of the situation of where we're at. What do we need to do instructionally to improve? And so now this meeting is really about, you've had some time to digest those things. We won't be doing a lot of data analysis. We've done that part. Now it's the hard part, which is, what are we gonna do about it? Because the last thing we wanna do is feel that we're doing the same thing over and over again and then just being frustrated at the end. It's kind of like that point of control. We're gonna control what we can. We're gonna commit to some things and follow through and give it our best college go, adjust if we need to, have some checkpoints. But at least at the end of the year, we'll be able to lay our head down at night and say, we gave our very best. These are the things that we did to improve. I believe we'll see the fruits of it, but if we ever do fall short in any of it, we at least have peace of mind that we did everything in our power to do that. So that is my goal and my hope for you to leave this meeting feeling. I know last meeting, we left feeling, I think, based on your feedback, feeling like we had a lot of good movement, but also a little bit overwhelmed about the work to be done. So the goal for this meeting will be for y'all to leave feeling a little bit better. You won't hear a lot of new initiatives. I've been working really hard on my to-do list I had from the last meeting, and so I'll have a lot of stuff to share with you and get feedback, but I don't think you'll be leaving thinking, I've got 25 more things to do. It's gonna be let's start closing the loop on some things. Sound good?
Yes.
Okay, so, I'm gonna skip around a little bit, before we get into our good things and challenges and talk about the objective and purpose of a meeting today, which I already did. Let's look at the leadership lens conversation. I told y'all last time I like to provide a few questions, and I will try to send that agenda out to you early so that you have time to think. I know if you're like me, sometimes I'm put on the spot and I can't really think of an example. So there were 3 questions. I like this to be very organic and not just go sequential, but kind of throw the 3 questions out and y'all pop in on whichever one of those really speaks to you. So the first question, asked, what does a commitment mean to you? And how is it different than a mandate, a requirement, or an expectation? Today, we're gonna be talking a lot about commitments. So, would anybody like to share any thoughts on that?
I would. So I put in the old chat GPT, what does commitment mean? And this is what it said, and I like what it said. I normally do. It says, commitment refers to a dedication or an obligation to a cause, activity, or relationship. It implies a sense of responsibility, loyalty, and perseverance toward fulfilling an agreed upon goal or duty, often requiring consistent effort and adherence over time.
And I would like, a commitment comes from me to the thing, and a mandate, a requirement, an expectation comes from someone else on it.
Good.
Yeah, something that you're passionate about, and something that you want to do. You're committed to because you want to. You're mandated, you may not want to do that, but you're going to do it because it's professional, but with commitment, I feel like it's more, you're invested.
That loyalty.
Loyalty is my favorite word.
So it's a dedication and an obligation that takes consistent effort, and I like the adherence over time. So it reminds you that a commitment is not a quick solution. It's something that, when you make a commitment to somebody, it's kind of a marathon, it's not a sprint. You're gonna have,
It's a journey.
It's a
like
journey.
90-day process.
and you're gonna have times where you'd like to dip out of that commitment, but the integrity that, and the belief and the passion that you have in believing that makes you want to keep doing that. And then you mentioned, Ms. McCoy, just the ownership that a commitment takes, a commitment from self to the mission, or rather than as a mandate is, we gotta do this because maybe the state told us we had to do it, but we don't really believe it. So it's really important to me that the things that we decide to do together, we truly all believe in it. And even if we have concerns or hesitations, or we don't know, that there's enough trust built in the room that we can say, you know what, no, we're gonna commit to it, we know it's a need, we'll adjust and be honest with each other as we go, but we're gonna follow through on things that we said we would do.
Thank you for the trust, that's huge, the
Yeah.
trust.
Well, and y'all don't know me very well yet, so I know that I'm building that with you, but I hope that we're able to get to that point. And y'all have already been so open and honest, so that's been wonderful. Okay, so now we'll talk about the negative aspects. What typically impedes success in meeting goals and commitments, and what typically supports success in meeting them. So when you think back and reflect on commitments or goals that you've set, what is the pattern that stops you from meeting that? Just in general. It's a very general question.
I mean, it's just, I think we get in our own way of stuff, just stepping out of our comfort zone, things that we're not comfortable with, and doing that, but like, I get in my own way more often than other people getting in my way.
Same, I get in my own head.
That's what,
Reducing time and resources.
Yeah.
With us being a small district, we don't have the personnel that a lot of larger districts do, where
Exactly.
you can delegate things and get help, but
I was gonna say, like, when you meet up with a little bit of pushback or failure or fear, then you're like, oh, well, I tried, but it's not working, let me, and then it can get a bad attitude or something. So that's like when you get in your own way. But also, I feel like sometimes if it's not clear what the expectation is, or like it's not continually reminded of it, then we're gonna work on this over here instead of this
In
main
leadership,
thing that we're supposed to do.
in our leadership thing with
and more to
Or, is it Dr. Mister? If you, what would he say? If you,
He said a lot of things.
allow, if you allow it to happen, what did he say?
About what?
Can't you remember? I don't know, I'll come, it'll come
Is
to
it something
me.
like if you allow something to happen, you're like endorsing it, you're saying it's okay kind of concept?
Yes,
I know that's not the exact phrase, but,
They said inspect what you expect,
uh-huh.
that's ingrained.
And trust but verify.
Trust but verify.
Trust is the big thing for me, as I was sitting here thinking about that, the times that I have been fully committed to something and then have kind of put on the brakes, it's when I realize that who I'm committed to or what I'm committed to is not what they said they were anymore. Or is sabotaging
Right.
what they've said they want us to be doing, they don't really want
And
us to do.
I think that brings up a really good point, because I think we have to remember we're in the people business,
Mhm.
and everybody's bringing in their own experiences, negative, positive, that we all have individual lenses, which I'm really excited because we do have our Strength Finder books. And so we're gonna get to learn more about our individual lenses and each other's individual lenses, which will really help us work as a team better. But yeah, I think,
That
we don't know that, we
sabotage
don't
or
see that.
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, great example. So you've got the practical things, time and resources, I think is great. I mean, that's in anything in life, right? And then you've also got the more, like not clear expectations, not follow through. And that's something I hope that I can support y'all in, is just, my husband would probably call me a nag, and that's okay. But I'm huge on, like, if we start something, we're gonna finish it, we're gonna touch on it. And so hopefully I'll be able to help at least bring us back to the table, how is this going? And so we don't forget some of those things.
Consistency is a huge part of a commitment, because since it's such a long journey, you can't not remind yourself of it. I mean, like,
That helps remind us what we're all here for.
Right.
Yeah.
Mhm. And then the third question was to provide an example, personal or professional, where you, and there's two parts to this, continue doing the same thing over and over, and change something and experience success. So you've got the negative example of you're frustrated, you're doing the same thing over and over again, the specific example, whether that's in your personal life or your professional life, you get to choose. And then the second part is the positive, where you decided, I'm gonna do something different, this isn't working, you changed something, and you were able to experience success. So that's the one I really wanted to give y'all time to think about, and it's gonna be difficult, and it's gonna die. Let me see. This thing just keeps kicking me out. We talked about the vision, we talked about achieving excellence, and what does that mean to yourself, what does that mean to your staff, and what does that mean to your students? So I shared it on Canva. Was everybody able to view it? Did y'all get the email? You did get it, okay. I don't know exactly how it comes to y'all if I share something from Canva.
oh, I didn't see anything.
I didn't see anything on Canva.
Okay, it's been a while too. It's kind of the
Sometimes
first.
she made it on Canva, but it came through, I think, on the email.
Okay,
You usually get an email.
okay. Well, I'll share it out again. And really, it's nothing, you don't have to do anything with it, but it's just a cool reminder of the words that, I use ChatGPT as well. I took all of y'all's notes that I took, and I
yes, I saw
said,
that.
define this with these characteristics. And I did the same thing. So, achieving excellence, how we define together for what that looks like for students, is excellence is when students achieve at a high level by giving their best effort. It means students are engaged, growing, and excited about learning. Students exhibit passion and relational skills with a strong desire to learn and understand individual strengths. And I tried to bold, because it's wordy, tried to bold, like if you could pull one sentence out, what would kind of summarize it. Excellence is marked by high expectations, purpose, continuous improvement, willingness, and resilience. It includes maintaining a positive mindset, being persistent, and celebrating both big and small successes. For staff, it was a little shorter. I was able to condense it a little more. Excellence is when staff displays a deep content knowledge and passion, centering all decisions around student growth and achievement. Characterized by unity, positivity, and selfless pursuit to do what is right for students, whatever it takes. Includes celebrating both big and small successes along the journey. And then for self, excellence is when we pursue our purpose with a deep sense of understanding our strengths individually and collectively. We inspire others through servanthood and through leading by example. We extend grace both to self and each other when we stumble. Excellence is when we approach each day by being prepared, balanced, relational, approachable, positive, and intentional in all our decisions. Pursuing excellence means we hold ourselves and each other accountable for making decisions in the best interest of students. So there's a thread that goes through all those. What are some of those threads y'all noticed? our commonalities.
Excellence.
Mhm. For me, I mean, I know it's growth.
Unity.
It doesn't spell it out in self.
Continuous improvement.
Uh-huh.
Takes commitment.
Mm-hmm.
And the celebrating, the big and the small,
Uh-huh.
you know.
Yeah, and that's really what I wanted y'all to gain from that is, these are defined slightly differently, but they're all the same. Growth and continuous improvement, individual strengths. I saw strengths-based approach, which will go right in line with our strengths finder, and just the commitment. So if you could even pull out 3 words to simplify even more, those are the 3 words I would pull out. And that's another thing I would challenge y'all to figure out a way to incorporate in your PD time. And again, y'all have to forgive me, if you already do these things, just ignore me. I don't know what you do, haven't been here yet. But somehow to spiral in the vision. And Mr. Goodman and I will be presenting on the Tom Bean Way. I know y'all started that work last year, so you may have already done something like this. But I think transparency is good, right? So I think this would be something good to share with our board. Hey, this is how we're defining it. Share with the campus. Hey, this is, if you can make it visual somewhere, if you want to take it and simplify it even more for your campus or do an activity, it does make a huge difference. Because if you don't have the vision right, then vision without action is a hallucination, I think is the statement, right? So, anyways, I just wanted y'all to see the work we did together. It worked out really pretty. And ChatGPT does, sir. And also, it even convinced me to pay $20 to extend my, because it only lets you do so many free.
Oh, I got the teacher one, it's free, I think.
Well, I got.
Oh,
So.
well. But it's well worth it, you won't be sorry.
Yeah, it saves a lot of time, so that's another thing, efficiency. I mean, I had not tried it out until this summer, I knew about
See,
it.
it's your ideas, it just puts it into good words,
Right,
but it's your, I mean, it's not, you know what I'm saying?
exactly. Because sometimes I'd be like, I reworded what I wanted it to do, and I did change some of these words to
I
make it
edited.
flow, and don't do it with your students, but, for professional teachers, it's good. Okay, so we're gonna move into the meat of the meeting. The next thing we have on topic is, last time we looked at data and we had some reflection questions. I can pull up whatever we need, but I know y'all got your laptops too, so y'all just let me know if I need to pull something on the screen. But basically what I wanna do, I've got 2 questions here. I want this to be very general, but we're gonna share, for the student population breakdown, I asked principals to do that piece. If y'all ended up sharing the work, that's fine. Work with your academic coaches to share that out. So just, you're gonna share with me what you believe your best performing student populations were, and your low performing student populations. We're just looking at patterns. And then just some general thoughts on the reasons, and if you have any ideas on how to support that particular population. And then when we get into the next part, that will be the academic coaches. You were tasked with finding the best 5 and the worst 5 skills. You're just gonna talk to me about the patterns you noticed, what you think we're doing well, what needs improvement, the why, and just what you think we need to prioritize. So there is no right, wrong way to do this. You can add as much or as little detail really as you want. I just want us to speak it because that's part of that building that commitment. So does anybody want to start?
I'll start.
Okay.
So in looking at my data, I'm trying to find it. So I noticed that, there it is. What I noticed, that in my special pops, my masters were super low. And my meets were 2. Not near as low as my masters, of course, in those special pops. I remember years ago when trying to decipher economically disadvantaged kids, you know, I learned that just because you're economically disadvantaged doesn't mean you're your scores are low. And so, in taking advantage of the fact that you might be echo disc, but you're very capable of doing, I really wanna focus more on that. And that was across the board on all of my tests.
The meets and masters.
The meets and masters. And
What population performed the best in your meets and masters, if you had to?
why?
Which makes you wonder what, it's just a question, right? That doesn't, mean we have an answer right now, but we kinda went through that at my previous district as well, and we're able to improve it and get that closing the gaps distinction or whatever, but, is the literature we read, is it diverse enough? Are they lacking, are different populations lacking some background knowledge that we're not building, you know?
Our special pops is changing, because whites and echo disc and at risk were the only special pops that I had. I still don't think I have enough, there's not enough blacks, there's not enough, the Hispanics is what is changing things. And it's growing, it's not yet, there where it's a standout like our little white kids, white poor kids. But our dynamics are changing.
Yeah, and so, that's a good point, so being able to see what's coming and getting ahead of it, and testing some things out with a smaller population, is wise, I would say. Good. Anything else you notice?
Well, when I also looked at the 5 best and 5 worst, just because
Okay.
I wanted to know. And we have said this time and time again, writing, first and foremost, is our struggle. And I think it's because, of the new expectation of the test. Well, now we're going into year 3. It's time for us to find a solution.
Absolutely.
And get consistent with it. And it also, ties back into, I've had consistency in 5th grade, blessed with that. And my 3rd grade ELA art teacher, last year she was a 2nd year, cert, who,
Is Miss Gray?
Yes.
Elisa
Gray.
Gray.
I love everybody.
Noah Gray's mom. Who knew? She is amazing. She's a natural leader. She's a natural 1-0. So my bookends are good. That middle piece, 4th grade, is where I've had no consistency. The littles, they'll do whatever I ask them to do. 2nd grade, I wanted Miss Hamilton, who's the 2nd grade ELA art teacher, to focus on conventions. If you focus on conventions and sentence structure and those kinds of things, we'll get them right. And the last year was, the first year, because who knew, the first year, we were looking at results going, okay, we see that expectation is wow. And so we kind of had an idea of what we wanted to do, and now we've got those results, and this year, we've got to get it, we've got to nail it down. Yeah, and in math, here's the trend I see. In 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade. So 3rd grade, they're the entry level, right? They're where there's the, what did we call it before? I knew the front end. They're the front end.
Yeah.
They're the beginning of the front end of the testing expectation for the rest of their school career, okay? And not only are those 3rd grade babies having to learn the curriculum, but having to learn how to do the test and type and all of the things. So, 3rd grade is a big transition year. And their scores are across the state, I think, okay. Then you get to 4th grade and across the state, year over year, those are low.
Yeah.
Year over year, across the state, the data shows that. Well, then when you get to fifth grade, you see this huge jump and this huge growth, and I attribute it to a few things. I mean, I don't know if y'all care about listening to me ramble, but I attribute it to this, that I can't explain why the fourth grade test is harder across the state in both reading and math. And in fifth grade, I think it might be easier, but is it easier, or are the students more mature and have more
I think it's their third
experience
year of-
under their belt?
Uh-huh.
Is it, I know it's a combination of all of this, teacher driven, you know? Or is it a holdover from the SSI years? You know, whenever we were in SSI in fifth grade and eighth grade, I'd pass to go on, and the state wanted to make sure everybody passed and went on. I don't know, but that's a trend that I see. And I just want us to have consistency.
Yeah, that consistency does make a huge difference.
It does. It does. I was reading in the notes, Sarah's, strength or something, she talked about this year having, or last year, having good consistency in her teaching staff. I want that. I used to have that, but as, you know, through, attrition, it's gone away.
Yeah.
So.
Those are some really good thoughts. I think, the patterns you've identified, there's a lot of truth to the things that you're seeing. And I think you're exactly right, consistency is gonna help. So how do we keep the staff we wanna keep, you know?
I'll tell you, every time we get a new AD, I would say to him, I'm gonna tell you how to build a winning program. Two things. It starts with us at the elementary campus, build your foundation and have consistency. Be here, don't leave, don't, look at this often. I mean, I don't even have to say anything. We know, because he's committed and he's been
Right.
here, and that's commitment, and I've had that for years. I walked into that, I was part of that.
Yeah.
But, you know, as they retire on and go on, it's been, for numerous reasons, I mean, COVID and state expectations and now no money and, you know, whatever. Our district can't always compete with the bigger districts who pay more, but then you have the teachers that have been to the bigger districts and made more and realize money's not everything, it's more about, making an impact. You know, it's a plethora of things. I don't know about you two principals, but that kind of stuff keeps me up at night.
Do you wanna add anything to that, Ms. McCord, or do
No,
you
she
think she
had.
nailed it?
Oh, good.
So writing and typing.
Writing and typing,
Yeah,
that's
for sure.
typing.
And that'll be something really good, I was thinking about that too, with the improvement plan, to put like some action steps, very specific for writing as well, and I'm gonna walk y'all through, I have both presentations, the fundamental five and constructive response ready. So I'm gonna show y'all it, it'll be quick, then I'll share it with y'all, get your thoughts and stamp of approval and feedback on changes on that, but that'll help with the writing. With the typing, I think it will be, I think the program's fine, but like, where do you start it with when and how often?
Yeah, how often?
And then you put that in your campus improvement plan, and then they know, and we follow up.
Yeah, and now's the time. I mean, we're in year 3 of this, and now's
Yeah.
the time. The first year, we didn't know what to expect in our small campus, in our small district, because it was just us 3, you know, trying to.
Well, now you've got the technology.
Now we've got the technology is in place. Year 2, we got through year 1. Year 2, we saw our strengths and our weaknesses. Now here we are with you and all of us together to solidify things and get it rolling, ground level, ground floor. That makes sense at all. I know I'm rambling.
You did
Oh,
great.
you're doing great. Because that's what we're seeing, our weaknesses especially used to, you could just say, these teaks,
Mhm.
these whatever, and now it's.
Yeah.
Typing.
Well, and I think with writing too,
Right.
Especially for us,
Yeah.
for the front end.
Yeah.
yes,
Yeah, 'cause
that is
that's our
one
only-
thing, like, elementary is arguably like the, and I'm a secondary person, so it's the most important years, because for them to make gains at the secondary level, they have to have those foundations, they have to. It's too difficult to make the gains, if it's not the foundations on there.
Yeah.
But with writing, I think when we go through constructive response, there's a shared accountability across contents,
Mhm.
that I think will help, because what I've seen is, we talk about, oh, right across the curriculum, okay, we'll do it, people close their doors, and the English teachers are the ones left with the writing, because they have the accountability. But I think there may be some hope of improvement, it won't be perfect, but some system that will help with that.
Back in the day, we used to say, if it's not tested, it's not taught.
Yeah.
And when I taught fourth grade, that's where the first writing test was. And nobody,
And you could tell.
I sure
You know
could.
that.
I sure could.
All right, middle school,
Well, I'm gonna rely a lot on Ms. Mathis today, but I'll just kind of give you, because I've heard that you've saved my bacon today.
I really only did it a month for my subject.
I'm just gonna kind of give you an overview. I know one of the places I know that middle school has struggled, or where we haven't met where we want to be, is the master's level. And that's been a struggle for years, is how do we increase the rigor in the classroom. And we've had a couple of bright shining spots. Last year, we were like double the state average in science. We had some little spots where they looked really, really good, but overall, in all subjects, we need to increase rigor, and we need to find a way to improve our master's score levels. And that doesn't matter whether you're Hispanic, or whether you're white, or if you're economically disadvantaged. It's low in everything.
Yeah.
So in that area, that's why I would say is one of our areas we need to improve and where we're struggling. As far as, when I looked at the data before, I haven't looked at this sheet, but I looked at the data before comparing to region and state averages. When you first see that data, you're comparing yourself to what did we look like last year? And that was like a panic moment to go,
Yeah.
wow, we're dropping a lot. Now, some of that is stuff we need to improve on, some of that may just be that the test has changed over years, had less time this year. Those are some excuses obviously we have that are built in. But when we started comparing those to people that look like us or in our region, it didn't look quite as bad as we thought we did. But we can go back to that master's level, so that's something that's definitely struggling, and how do we get there? And I talked to a teacher last week, and they said, really, like, I don't know how to get to that level. And I think sometimes, we have all these programs, and we don't follow TRS, with fidelity all the way through, because we have another program we
Yes.
like, and it's not aligned with state standards. And so we like that, that's easier than what we're used to. When I look at people that use the TRS, their scores are usually better in most cases. So that's a small glance into it, that's not really digging deep, but I think sometimes we lean on some other resource that's not actually our curriculum,
right?
and it doesn't give us the data that we need.
I think, too many programs, and I'm a little overwhelmed by the amount of programs here.
Amen. Yeah.
Like, I mean, I think you need one good foundation, and then everything else, like one good intervention tool, which is IXL is a state approved one. You can also save money that way, but when there's too many things, it keeps you from being aligned. You don't learn any of it well.
Right.
And so, yeah, I think that's definitely something we need to look at. I hear a new program every day. Well, what do we use that for, and where is the login? And I mean, I would be overwhelmed as a teacher and distracted.
Yes.
So I think that's something we can definitely commit to is, let's
Yeah.
commit to using the online textbook, the resource, whatever it is, the intervention program we commit to, and if there's other things out there, just make sure it's not the same thing as some, like, it has been briefed by the principal and academic coaches of, this is a supplemental reading passage that the textbook does not offer. There's like a good why to it. Also, another thing I noticed you say, Coach Terry, and this is something that I think would be really good to include in the improvement plans is, and I know I mentioned this last time, but I'm a believer in it. It took me up until this last year to become a believer in it, is just talking about meets and masters and not even talking about approaches. Don't even talk about it with the teachers. Just every conversation y'all have with them, meets and masters, meets and masters, meets and masters. Because meets means you're meeting grade level. So approaches should mean failing in your brain.
Whenever we set up our, quad test in Eduphoria and you can set your passing standards, what do we do?
Yep, we set them at that 70, 90, and we push them
Uh-huh.
all the way up there.
We don't even, you know, 60, or whatever the master meets, passing standard is, that's where we say pass or fail.
And that's something good, like, again, like, instead of, you know, we'll increase meets and masters by 10% on an improvement plan that's posted online and nobody sees it. We're gonna increase it to whatever, 40% in style. Like, it's very, maybe it's a 5 to 10% increase or 15 or whatever y'all wanna do. And that can change for the different contents, but you write the percentage, you speak it to your teachers, and then your academic coaches or principals, however y'all are gonna do that, when you're sitting in those data meetings, you remind them of, this is where we're tracking towards this goal. I think that will make a huge difference. Good. Ms. Gomez, Ms. Mathis, do y'all wanna add anything else to Coach Cherry, whether that's specific skills or patterns that you noticed?
Well, geometry needs help in the middle school math stuff. And then when I look at some of the stuff that we didn't do well on it, some of the stuff that, there's just so much in sixth grade, like you can't devote as much time. So, what I learned in my conference and what I've learned from looking at this is that the spiral review has to become a bigger component of the classroom.
I agree.
Whether we're just talking about bell work or every quiz we take, or like, I just need to be spiraling stuff all the time. So that would be the big thing I would, need to take away from middle school math.
You know, I saw a teacher
Spiral.
once, and it was with those SLO goals, which are really the student learning objective, which is a really good thing. I don't know that we're doing that here anymore. Y'all have to give me feedback on that, but it's just a good practice. The SLO goal,
Oh, we do.
y'all do, that's great. So what she did is she identified, like, what is my worst, I forget what unit it is because I'm not a math, but then she spiraled it at the very beginning, like in all of her warm-ups leading up to that unit, and then she tracked how did they do on that unit 7 test the prior year when I just waited till we got to it versus when I spiraled that. And you know, that's like then she wasn't overwhelmed because she picked that one thing, it was based on data, I'm committing to doing this. She did it and then she compared it and it made a huge difference. I think the more we can coach up our teachers to do that, like just pick one thing, just what did you say, the preamble?
No, it's the 10 amendments.
The the amendments, like the one thing that you get frustrated every year because they don't know, and it's like kind of like what's the biggest bang for your buck thing too. Like you don't just pick something random, like something
It's
intentional.
highly tested.
Yes, or a critical thinking skill or something that will pay in dividends.
And it's frustrating though, because some of that stuff is not, is not till the end of the year.
Right.
So, I don't know if I talked to you, but I've mentioned it to somebody somewhere, like in sixth grade math, they dump you in the deep end with fractions, decimals, and percents after they've been resting all summer, you know, and it's just a hard concept to begin with, and then when you're just coming in cold turkey, like, my thinking is we might wanna adjust that and start with geometry, because it is heavily tested all through all the years, and then you can spiral it all year long, instead of waiting till it's one of the last 3 or 4 things.
Test is in April, you think it didn't hit the YAG till March.
Yeah.
Well, here's how I think about the YAG. I don't, because you guys are the experts, and you know, and we know that the YAG doesn't now, you know, just like you said, doesn't exactly match the flow. I say, pick, what is it? What, you wanna start with geometry? Okay, start with geometry, you go to the idea of that geometry unit, and you teach all the things. Even if the geometry on the YAG is not till the third 9 weeks, it's okay, that is okay. As long as you're using the IFD, see, listen to me, I know what to say, it's just, I don't execute. like
But it's
should.
one of the last things that fifth grade math does.
It is.
And so then you're
Makes
coming
sense
in
to pick it
reviewing
up.
what they did in fifth grade.
Exactly.
But you don't need to know integers and stuff to be able to do the geometry stuff.
Yeah.
So bring that in and review it and build on it and spiral it for
Absolutely.
years. And
I
then you're
think
gonna build
that
a
makes
stronger
sense.
foundation for 6, 7, and 8
Absolutely.
grade.
I think
then.
lots of
I think
districts
that-
do that. I think they rearrange the YAG.
Uh-huh.
Cause I've compared notes with some other sixth grade science teachers and so because like in sixth grade science, they said, teach minerals like here, but teach rocks over here. Well, why not just teach them on
Put them together.
I mean, it's kinda like common sense or, you know,
Yeah.
it was just.
So I will say
something
at the
like
high
that.
school level, I've given my teachers flexibility
Yeah.
to change the order as long as they still cover
Covered
everything and have a
Uh-huh.
plan for the year.
Uh-huh.
They just, I
Yeah.
told them to make me a copy of how they rearranged their
Right.
YAG. Because they are the experts, like,
Exactly.
there is a reason, like, they're spouting off, well, we need to do poetry here instead of here, and you're the
And I
expert.
think as long as we have a process for having the conversations or a system for, because you don't, let's say you have a first year teacher. who
Yeah, they
doesn't
won't
know,
know.
and you know, I don't know that you'd want everybody just free willy.
Willy-nilly.
Yeah.
But you have a process if it's rearrange it and you have to submit to
And it
me.
wasn't every teacher, it was a lot.
Right,
Yeah.
or they know that they can't do that on their own accord, they have to at least have a meeting and then be able to,
Explain why they.
That's
Explain
something,
the why.
I feel like that's something academic coaches can help with.
absolutely.
And I want my teachers not to feel like they have to report to me or to Kristen. I want them to have a sounding block.
Right.
Does this make sense if I move geometry to the front because, you know, as a sounding block, not as a, you will bring it to me and I will approve it or I won't. You know what I'm saying?
And I think that's where your leadership comes in,
Mhm.
because you want them to feel comfortable having those conversations. But
Yeah, 'cause
your
there's only
reasoning,
one-
I think that makes total sense. You've given us the why, they're coming from fifth grade, they're going into sixth grade, they're already seeing it, it's heavily tested. That would be a good question, like, is it heavily tested? Why are you wanting to start it earlier? It's, you know, something that's more accessible to them before you, I would say we just need to make sure, there is a really, 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 really good why. Because if we change too much and there's not a good why, then that's a risk.
So
It's just a risk.
interestingly enough,
This is yours. So in the back of the book, you do not have to read this book, by the way. We can still do Strength Finder without reading the book, because I know we have a lot going on. In the back, there's a code. You cut this, it gives you where to take the assessment. The assessment takes like maybe 10 or 15 minutes. I would do it when you are like doors shut, by yourself, no distractions, because it's tied into your like instinctual thinking. It'll put you in some scenarios and stuff, and you're supposed to make a decision quickly based on your leadership lens and how you think. And if you get interrupted, it will time you out and it'll mess up your results. So just when you have 10 to 15 minutes quietly, take it and then email me your top 5, and then I will take it from there. I'll have a little chart for us where I keep all of them on there, and we'll talk about it this year during leadership. But that's all I need y'all to do is basically take a little quiz and send me your 5
It
notes.
feels wrong, just so you know.
Do what?
Go to the back and cut that and not read this, that makes me.
You can read it. I know y'all have a
Will
lot.
we have different answers if we read it first and
No.
then take the test?
No. So what it does is it'll tell you a little bit about Strength Finder, and then it organizes it by each strength. There's 34 strengths.
Oh, here's this.
It's like 1 in 6 million or 3 million, I can't remember the exact number, chance that you have the same 5 in the same order as anybody else in the world. So like it's gonna take you through all 34 strengths. You might be overwhelmed by that because it doesn't mean, those words don't mean anything to you yet. So I would suggest just
That
taking
makes
the
more
quiz
sense.
and then maybe reading
I
up
thought
on
I
your
was missing
5
something.
Me
that
too.
you get. Eventually we'll get to where we read up on each other's 5, but to start, I would just take the quiz and send me your 5. And then, like, when it gives you belief, Cherry, when it gives you that as your top one, you can go read about yourself on belief.
I'm gonna direct everything away from relief.
Stop. And then the final thing, this is a nugget, take it or leave it. You do not have to use it. It is just a leadership thing. But this is something that I have used for years. It's the 4-way decision-making test. If you have trouble, or you have people on your staff that you feel like have trouble making decisions that either are not decisions they need to be making, poor decisions, whatever, you go through these questions. And basically, if you can answer yes to all these questions, then you're making a solid decision for your organization. This is something we have all teachers would have it posted, like they'd go over it in staff development, whatever, but is there a decision to be made and is it mine to make? Sometimes maybe Miss McCarthy just needs somebody to listen to, but we can't make a decision, okay? So we stop. Don't make a decision, because if you do, it's not gonna be a good decision. Okay, let's say she gets past that one. Yes, it's a decision that has to be made, and yes, I have to make it. Is it fair and equitable? That's the next question. Are there certain pockets of people that it's not fair to? The answer is no, pause. It's not gonna be a good decision. If it's yes, move forward. Is it sustainable and will it stand the test of time? I think of Fundamental 5 and constructive response. That is sustainable and it will stand the test of time. If it was something new that we hadn't seen for years and we thought it was gonna go away, we would answer no, and that would not be a good decision. And then number 4, will it build goodwill and unity with all stakeholders? That doesn't mean this is perfect and everybody's happy. It just means if you can answer yes to these questions, then you're making a solid decision. It's just a little nugget that I like to use and you'll probably hear me refer to. And so you can file it away and never look at it again. I mean, it's not a mandate or anything. It's just something that really changed the way I lead, even personally making decisions. And I'm just a believer in it, so I just want to share it.